Hi everyone, how are we doing? We're good? That's good, that's a good place to start. Okay, what is engagement anyway, or connecting with your people, the engagement bridge? So, right now, everyone's going nuts, aren't they, about employee engagement. If you're in HR, and engagement's either in your job description, your role, or just in your area of interest, now is the time, right? Because everyone's talking about it. I've seen some amazing stuff recently. So a friend of mine I've known for years who actually runs an outplacement company, so finding new roles for people when you've made a lot of people redundant. Actually, they've rebranded, they're now an engagement consultancy. Yeah, a friend of mine runs a business in Australia, which is a recruitment firm, not anymore. That's an engagement consultancy as well. Everything's an engagement consultancy, actually. I think the bar near my house is about to become an employee engagement consultancy. So everyone's going nuts about it. And why is it? This is interesting. This is a Harvard Business Review big publication came out last year, a big report. If any of you saw it, 71% of executives surveyed, these were execs across the UK and the US, 71% of them ranked employee engagement as very important to achieving organisational success. So 71% say it's very important. But the same executives, only 24% of them said their employees were highly engaged. So 71% think it's very important, but the same people, only a quarter of them think their employees are engaged. Bit of an engagement gap. So why is this? Why is this? I think there's a lot of rubbish said about what employee engagement is and is for. One of the things, the definitions I hear is it's about unlocking discretionary effort. And I know where that comes from, but it kind of always makes me slightly uncomfortable because it feels too transactional. It feels like, if we do some nice things to them, then they'll work an extra hour at the end of the week and it'll be like a free hour. Yeah? And I just think that just feels like a long way away from where we're all at. So I don't think it's about that. And I don't actually think it's about just reducing attrition. There's a lot of nonsense said about reducing attrition as well, as if all attrition is bad. People talk about, the hidden cost of leavers. How much money does it cost when people leave? You've got to re-recruit, you've got to retrain, you've got to do all that kind of thing. Actually, I think the real cost to our organisations is the people who you're paying every month who are sitting in their chair or on the production line going through the motions but not really doing anything for your organisation because they're disengaged. So they're they're dragging themselves through the day, yeah, getting paid every month, unhappy, quite possibly bad-mouthing you to other people outside, and you're paying them. That's the real cost, yeah? So engagement's not just about reducing attrition. I think there are three key reasons why organisations who genuinely, deeply understand employee engagement, why they thrive. There are three. Let's share them. One, engaged employees make better decisions. Engaged employees make better decisions, and I think they do that because they understand more. They're engaged in the organisation, they understand more about the organisation, where it's going, what it's trying to do, what its issues and problems are, and therefore they can make better decisions when it comes to them. And don't think that better decisions are just for managerial grades either, because many of you will have customer service teams or operational teams, and they're making decisions every single minute, yeah? If someone here is from, Ollie mentioned Vodafone, yeah? There's a couple of thousand people at Vodafone making decisions in customer service every single day which affect how customers feel about that brand, yeah? And the more engaged those customer service people are, the better those decisions they'll make. And there's often a range of judgment calls you can make in your job. Number two, I think engaged employees are more productive, but not because they stay an extra hour at the end of the week or they work the weekend, which actually I'm not convinced is the right thing to do anyway. It's simply because they like or love what they're doing, so they approach it with a vigour and an enthusiasm a disengaged employee does not. And it's not for me about presenteeism. I'm not interested in how many hours somebody works. I couldn't care less. In fact, to be honest, if you're working a whole heap of hours, you're probably not going to be making great decisions. Yeah, because I know when I overwork, which I do, when I overwork, I make terrible decisions. Yeah, and I've kind of trained myself. So if I'm jet lagged and tired, I try and put off any big decisions for another day, because they're not going to be my best. Yeah. So engaged employees are more productive because they like all of what they're doing. And the third thing is engaged employees innovate more. And they innovate more because they want their organization to succeed. And that, for me, is about what engagement is. It's about somebody feeling connected enough to your organization. And it doesn't matter whether it's private sector, public, charity, or third sector, or anything. They're connected to it enough, and they care about it enough that they want the organization to succeed. And they have an understanding at some level as to what they can do on a daily and hourly basis that makes the chance of your organization being successful more likely. I think you can also sum it up in here. Engaged employees choose the hard path when it is right for their organization. If you know what I mean by that, you're at work and things are happening. It can be at a low level or a high level. You've got a range of options. One of them, the guy at the back of your mind knows that that's the right thing to do, but it's kind of hard because you're going to have to get a lot of people on board and get that, and get that over the line and do it. There's a much easier path that would see you onto a different task earlier in the day. So you've got to force yourself to choose the hard path because you know it's right. I mean, we make decisions like this all the time, all through the day. And engaged employees choose the hard path when it's right for their organization more than disengaged. We're all human, so none of us are perfect. I choose the easy path too sometimes. Yeah, we all do. It's about doing it more. Do you remember when this was all we strived for? Customer satisfaction. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when the big deal was getting excellent on your customer sat scores. That's what we wanted, yeah? But it's not enough anymore for the best organizations. It's not enough anymore. This is now what people are asking. Does my customer love me? Not are they satisfied, but does my customer love me? What does that mean? What does that mean? They used to ask, when I started my career 20 years ago, people used to say, what's customer lifetime value? What's the total amount of all their orders they've placed? What's their recurring value? What's my customer lifetime value? But now, the best companies, the ones that are really going to survive and thrive, are asking this. They're asking, what's my customer selling for me? What's my customer advocating for me? How are they spreading my word? And they're doing that because we live in this much more social world than we've ever lived in before. The downside, of course, is how much business is my customer losing me? There's this guy, Dharmesh Shah, from a business called HubSpot, which I follow. It's a marketing business in the US, quite far out there thinking about customer service. And he invented this word, delation. It's not a real word, but if you Google it, you can find the HubSpot site. Delation. And he defines it as a feeling of strong happiness or satisfaction to the point that you rave about the provider of the event that led to that feeling. Delation. And in this increasingly social world, it's so important to realize how much power customers have. I mean, look at this. I just took these screenshots this morning on my phone. I was on the Currys website, went to buy a new washing machine, right? So in the old days, it's all about the washing machine and the price and the picture and some list of manufacturer's features. But now, I'm seeing the results of 10 reviews here. Actually, this one I was looking at, that I was going to buy, it doesn't look that good to me now. It's only got a 5.8 out of 10 from 10 people that have bought it. And I'm not finding that in a strange place. I'm finding that on the Currys website. So when we think about social, I don't want you to think, oh God, Twitter, I don't understand it. Sounds weird. Social's everywhere. It's just in reviews. Look, I mean, Wendy is not happy. It says, the book on how to use a machine does not have any answers to the questions I need, and the clothes came out so creased. So I'm with her. I want to move on to the next one. Customers have got a lot of power. Yeah? What's this? I want to go on holiday. I fancied Istanbul, typed in Istanbul. And I find 68 reviews for the Intercontinental, 4.3 stars. Doing very well, actually. That looked quite good. Yeah? And I found that right in the Google search. I didn't even have to go to TripAdvisor anymore. Over here, Francis said to me this morning, Glenn, you need your beard trimmed. Your hair's a mess. So afterwards, I'm going to have to get my hair cut. So I typed in Ted's grooming room. It's interesting, look, I can see The one on Avery Road's got 4.5 stars, but the one on Charlotte Street only got 3.8. Customers are powerful now. And your staff are powerful too. Who's looked at Glassdoor? Anybody put your hand up? Oh, do you know what? It's fascinating. I did that 2 years ago. Nobody in the room put their hand up. Nobody. Today, every one of you put your hand up. I think every one of you. Glassdoor, your employees and your ex-employees and people who've been for an interview with you have a voice. And this is a very, very social world. And my point about all this is, if we want customer love, surely we have to have more than employee satisfaction. Surely satisfied employees who are dragging themselves through the day saying, it's all right. And we know them. We've all got them. Surely they're not going to create customer love. They're not going to create customer advocacy. So if your organization needs to have customer love to compete and to thrive, you're going to have to start at home and have employee love and have engaged employees, because I don't see how you're going to create that customer love if you've only got employee satisfaction. And I think this is a really exciting time for HR, because that's a really strong link between what everyone in this room does and your organization's bottom line. And I think this is a time for some really honest and open conversations with your service leads and your sales leads about this, about saying how much you can help them and how much you can help them to deliver. So if that wasn't enough, I do think there's even more pressing urgency, and it's this: speed kills. What I mean by that is that technology makes everything go faster. Everything go faster. The internet makes everything go faster. When things go faster, competition tends to get harder. It doesn't matter, whether you're in the charity sector, the public sector, or the private sector. We are all in competition for resources. Yeah, I'm a trustee of a small charity. It's never found it so hard, as it is right now. And technology, that thing that everyone promised us would make us free from work and have this amazing leisure time. I don't know if any of you went to school the same sort of years that I went to school. I was in school in the early 80s. And I can remember Mr. Billen, the computer science teacher. He was actually a maths teacher, because we didn't really have computer science teachers then, but he was a maths teacher. And he said, Glenn, when you and your classmates end up in the working world, technology will be doing all the hard work. You'll probably be working a 2-day week. And everyone will be working in the leisure industry, because we'll have this big issue. We'll be like, what will we do with our leisure time? I've been hunting Mr. Bullen down for those lies for many, many years, because I'm afraid it didn't happen. But this certainly happened. Change is getting faster all the time. Does anyone think that the position they're in their organisation is easier than it was 10 years ago? Less competitive or less? No, it's not really. If it is, you're very, very lucky. Change is getting faster all the time. Because of that, I think that only 2 types of organizations are going to thrive. Only 2. And they're these: organizations that eliminate their people and organizations that engage their people. When I say eliminate, I don't mean it in like a Star Trek kind of way, where you kind of shoot them, because that's clearly wrong. We know that. But I mean in this way. I know Amazon's very topical in the news this week. Who's read the New York Times article about Amazon? About half of you, most of you actually. Anyone who hasn't, just Google Amazon space NY Times. Fascinating. This has actually been my slide deck for nearly a year, so it's following that. But Amazon is not being dishonest in what it does. Their mission is very clear. It's to build the world's most customer-centric organization. It doesn't say people-centric, it says customer-centric. Yeah? And they don't have company values for everyone to live. They have leadership values for leaders to deliver. It's quite a subtle difference. And Amazon will be delighted when every part of the Amazon machine is delivered by machines like this. These are Kiva robots that are so important to Amazon's future that Amazon bought the company that made them so it could control their development. And there's a warehouse, like a test warehouse over in the States, which is the size of several football pitches, which is run almost entirely by Kiva robots. But these are in every single Amazon distribution center. There are people there as well, and they're doing the bit that today the robots can't do. But the robots will get there. And I think what we saw from the New York Times article this week, which was really about Amazon's very harsh, data-centric way of managing professional managerial staff, is that their mission is very clear. They'd like to eliminate those people from the system too, at such a point that they can. The other way, of course, is to engage your people. And John Lewis is my go-to UK example of a business that engages their people. So there are two different paths. And I think you can choose whichever one you do. My strong suggestion, given that it's a room of HR people, not robotics engineers, is we should choose the engagement route. But if anyone wants a conversion course, there must be one. There must be one. But we need to engage if we can't eliminate. And that's a good thing, actually, this thing about engagement. It is a choice. You choose whether engagement is right for your business and whether it's right now for your business. And actually, you've all turned up today to Engagement Excellence Live, so you've all made a choice that this is the way you're going to spend your Friday. That's the first step. Once an organization has chosen engagement, your job then is to inspire and influence others in your organization and your people to choose to be engaged too. You can't force your staff to be engaged. You can't say, Seb, you will now be engaged. You were not engaged yesterday. If you are engaged, I will give you £10. That just doesn't work. Yeah? Sadly, Amazon would have done that. What you do is you create a culture and an environment where people say, do you know what? I like it here, and I want this organization to succeed. And I know how I do that. I know my role in this organization. I know how I'm connected. That's what you do. That was an elephant. There's an elephant in the room. I need to share my elephant with you. It's this. You can't engage your workforce with employee benefits alone. And anyone who tells you that you can, I'm afraid, isn't telling you the whole truth. People don't become engaged in your organization because you gave them great benefits. They just get great benefits. They may view your organization more positively, yeah, and it's a great olive branch, and it's a start, and it's also quite easy. It's the easiest part of engagement, yeah. But if you try and just found your engagement strategy on benefits, you'll just end up with a very, very well-rewarded set of disengaged people. And then something absolutely terrible happens. They never want to leave. Because you've just created the world's most expensively paid and rewarded disengaged workforce, which you're stuck with. British Airways cabin crew is my go-to example of that. So many, many decades of institutionalized and unionized workforce has got the highest paid cabin crew in the world. And I talk to them regularly, because I'm always flying about. Most of them do not want to work there, but they can't afford to leave. They're the worst words you can hear as an HR person. I don't really like it here, but I can't afford to leave, can't really get this amount of money anywhere else, so I have to stay. Oh my God, my heart, I feel a bit sick now just even repeating it. Yeah? They're terrible words, because this person is unhappy. That's the first problem. They're unhappy. Yeah? They're costing you a fortune, and they're not doing very much, because they're not engaged. You created that. So the answer is something called the engagement bridge. So if you think about your organization on one side and your people on the other, the bridge is the thing which connects the two, and engagement is about connection. Benefits do have a strong role, and they have a role here as the anchors of the bridge. Yeah? They're your olive branch. They're a good place to start. They're very inexpensive, they're easy to implement, they're often next to free, and they're a good place to start. If you're thinking about well-being, this is a more recent addition that I've added to the engagement bridge, because I've seen a lot of nonsense recently as well about, implement our well-being program and your staff will become engaged. Well, no, they won't. They'll just become more healthy. So if you try and build your bridge on these two things, you'll have a very, very well-paid, very fit workforce. But they won't necessarily know which direction your organisation's going, how they can contribute to that, or even want to. So these don't reach across. They don't reach across, but they're good anchors. But these things reach across. Open and honest communication. I have not found yet an organisation with a truly engaged workforce that doesn't have the big tenet of what it's trying to do, a lot of effort here. Now, this job is never finished, right? I've been obsessed by it for years, and we still fail every day. Yeah, and if you read in detail our Glassdoor reviews, you'll find people saying they don't tell us anything here. And I think, oh God, we have to do all sorts. And if you stay for my afternoon presentation, I'll be sharing with you a whole load of the employee communications and engagement tools that we use internally, and you'll see how hard we try at open and honest communications. But it's never perfect, and there's always people that you miss. But I don't believe you can have an engaged workforce unless this is important to you. Purpose, meaning, and values. Shared and well-communicated purpose, meaning, and values. What are we trying to do? What direction is the organisation going in? What is important to us? What are our values? Again, I'll be covering our values in my session at 3 o'clock. Leadership is critical. And management is critical. That old saying, I'm not sure where it came from, about X% of people don't leave their organisation, they leave their manager. Of course it's true. Of course it's true. So you have to start with great leadership and management. And job design as well. You can't engage people in a job which has fundamentally got a bad design. So if you have roles in your workforce where you look at them and think, Jesus Christ, I wouldn't want to do that. It's got no life and soul in it. It's got no fun in it. And you just have to take that from there and put it there. You need to start with job design. I was talking to one of our clients recently who had an issue with customer service. She was HR director of a housing association. And she said, my customer service team, they go through the motions and they kind of manage to get through the day. She said, but it's not a joyous department to be in because all they do all day is pick up the phone and have people who've got problems with their housing. And I said, what do? She said, well, they type them into the system and then they put the phone down, pick up the next call and do that again. She said, it's a soulless job. She said, I can't believe we did it. It's horrible. I said, is there any joy in it at all? She said, no. I said, well, let's start there. How do we create some? I said, what would it be like if you were working in it? How would it feel? She said, well, some of the most frustrating things is when someone calls for the 5th time about the same thing, and there's an organisation we've failed to fix it all of the previous 4. And so some of the stories are awful, You'll have a single mum with 3 kids who's had no hot water for 2 weeks, and your heart really goes out to them. And we've just failed to get, the engineering right. I said, and what do your staff do when that happens? Type it in. I said, nothing else. So what we did with her was we designed a system where when that happens, or based on the individual call centre operative's own judgment, they could send a little gift. And it was a little gift. It was a little teddy bear with "We're sorry" written on it and a handwritten note. That's all it was. It cost £2 each, plus the jiffy bag and a stamp, about 3. And the rule was that anyone could send them to anyone that they wanted to when they felt that that person deserved it. So suddenly, through that simple piece of job design, that whole department was lifted. And it's an example of where you've got to really look into what people are doing if you want to get engagement too. And of course, recognition is absolutely key. Because if you've communicated a clear purpose, meaning, and values, you then need to recognise when you see those values delivered. Yeah? And you can do recognition in many ways. My advice is to do it in a simple way. Yeah? Universally, the most important thing is to say thank you. It's the money, and attaching money to recognition is not that important. It's nice, and it's a nice bonus, but do not let a recognition strategy be delayed because you're waiting to get budget to pay for the £10 or the £100 or the £1,000 you want to give when someone is recognised. Start it tomorrow with thank you. And you can do it on a great system like we've got that Seb runs, or you can just do it by And you're starting from yourselves and your own team by starting to make a habit of calling people up and saying thank you when something great happens and looking for it. It makes an enormous difference. And the last thing at the top is learning and development, because in my 20-odd years being in business, I have never known someone leave a job where they are learning and growing constantly. No matter what, everyone moans about pay and rations, we all do. If you find an organisation where the workforce isn't unhappy about pay, they're probably paying them too much and probably about to go bust. Yeah? People at Google are unhappy about their pay. Yeah? But I never found an organisation where someone wants to leave when they're learning. Absolutely key. And gluing all of this together gives you a great engagement strategy. And if it looks hard, if you look at that and think, God almighty, there's some big things in there, then my message is, the good thing about this is it's not kind of binary, like you've got to achieve all of this and then engagement turns on. Yeah? Every step you take on this journey, every step, every little bit, every little block you put in gets you positive outcome. Every little bit. So I would suggest to you, don't wait till you can start at the top or the side or start where you think needs starting. I'd look at it and think, right, where could I start on Monday? What could I actually do? What bit's in my control? Where could I have some impact? And start there. Because you will get positive things out straight away. And I know that because I've been doing this in our own organisation for over 9 years now, which is kind of what my talk's about this afternoon. Don't forget that piece. If you overuse benefits and just put those in place, you're just rewarding people well, but you haven't made the connection. So guys, that's it for me for now. I'm back at, I think, 3:10. I get the graveyard shift again. It's a shocker, isn't it? You found the company, you still get the graveyard shift at the gig. Shocking. So I'll hand you back over to Ollie. Thanks ever so much.